So, good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I see that we have a lot of repeats here tonight. Um, the numbers are still going. Thank you, Jason, for doing our introduction and telling everyone that we will be right with them. Um, I hope you guys are all good. I see a couple of, I see many repeats. You guys have consistently been coming out every night. Tonight, as you know, we're going to be looking at visitor's visa or temporary residence visa for Canada. And we're going to be, it will be myself, Jason, and Ashik who will be hosting tonight. Jason will be helping out with tech support. So if you guys have questions, he will be helping to answer in the chat. Our email address is, Jason, could you help me to put it in there? Okay, so Jason's email is there. Uh, Janice, you can't hear me. I'm going to turn up my microphone. So our website is there and the email addresses are there. Thank you, Jason, for putting those in. So myself, Maniki Graham, and Ashik Graham will both be doing tonight's meeting on temporary residence visa. I'm going to start sharing my screen now so that we can get right to it. So for those of you who have you've been with us all week, you know a little bit about our company already. We got incorporated in 2018. We have two offices, one in Kingston, Jamaica, and one in Toronto, Canada. In Ontario, at the end of 2019, our acceptance rating for approval stood at 92.5%. Um, the RCIC, so the Regulated Canadian Immigration Consultant for the company, it's myself, Maniki Graham. I've been practicing since May 2010 and I've worked with three companies, two in Ontario and one in Alberta. Um, what's unique about Menage Pro Immigration? We have it on the screen here for your reference. One of the things that we pride ourselves about the company is our resubmission policy. We believe that whenever you pay for a service, you should get that service and nothing less. So we're one of the only companies that does this, where if you retain us to assist you with an application and that is unsuccessful for whatever reason, we will assist you the second time around for free. So you do not have to pay any professional fees again. This is something that we stick to for all our files. We have a cumulative fee policy. So whenever you pay for something, it adds up towards the end goal. So towards the final fee that you're paying. We have flexible payment plans. We have multiple levels of representation. So this is to suit any budget. So if you, let's say you can't afford our premium packages, you can take a lower package where we do a review for you, or we can do a partial representation depending on the type of application you seek. We also pride ourselves in our customer service and our availability to our clients. We try to avail ourselves to the best of our ability. What are some of the benefits of using a representative? Since we get this all the time, we decided to throw it in there. The primary ones is the primary ones are because we do this every day, we kind of have a knack of how to handle your application. We know what to look out for, the good and the bad things about the file. So we try to highlight those things that work best for you and will be in your best interest. We're trained in our field, we're trained and retrained yearly. It's a part of our licensing requirements. Immigration rules, it's ever changing. So it's a part of our job to keep on top of these changes. We also work with a network of other professionals, both in the field of immigration and other areas to assist you with files. So we ensure that we get second, third, or fourth opinion. So right into it. Next topic, temporary resident visa. So this is one of the easiest ways to get into Canada. So if you do not meet the requirements of any of the programs that they have for permanent residents or like a work permit, or you can't be a student, odds are that you can get through with this program. So it allows you to come to Canada. As you can see, what is a visitor's visa, right? So persons use it interchangeably. Some persons decide to say TRV, temporary residence visa, or visitor's visa. Essentially, it's the same thing. According to this is as per IRCC's website, it's an official document that shows that you are allowed, you've met the eligibility requirements needed to enter Canada. So it's a basic requirements, unlike all the other programs that we've been doing all week. This one, the requirements are pretty basic. The validity of that document, it depends on, usually it depends on your passport, because Immigration Canada will not exceed whatever the validity of your travel document or your passport is. So we always advise persons to ensure that your passport is renewed. You have the full 10 years in there. You can get different lengths in terms of how long it's valid for. It can be 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. Sometimes they give it to you depending on your travel history, or if they're not satisfied that you will use it how you're supposed to. So you'll, use it, travel to Canada and go back home. So they might give you a short time when you apply for the first time, but then when you use it, go back and you apply the second time around, you find that it will be longer. The requirements for this. So as you can see on the screen, with every temporary resident application submitted to IRCRC, they want to make sure that you will abide by the conditions of leaving Canada when the time comes. So you're not going to overstay. For with this specific type of document, when you have a temporary resident visa, you're allowed to remain in Canada for a maximum of 6 months. We get the question all the time where persons say, well, they didn't stamp my passport at the border. Does that mean I can stay till whatever time? Or they'll say, well, since it wasn't stamped and my visitor's visa is valid until next year, does that mean that I can stay till next year? No, you're allowed 6 months at a time per visit, and they expect that you will know when to leave. So even if they do not stamp it, they know when you're. Applicants must provide proof of, sorry, I'm echoing in somebody's thing. Applicants must provide sufficient proof of funds to show that you're stable in your home country. So the good thing about this is that you do not have to show that you have X amount of money. So there is no chart, unlike the other programs. We do not have a minimum funds requirement when you're applying for a visitor's visa. You just need to show basically that you can afford the trip. So it depends on the length of time that you plan to stay in Canada and who you're going to stay with, what you plan to do. So, for example, if you're going to be visiting a family or a friend, and that person is showing proof that, listen, she's coming to stay with me, they're going to be at my house, I'm going to be providing them with the basic necessities such as food, shelter, obviously miscellaneous expenses to move around and stuff, the required funds on your part will be lower. So either you can provide your bank statements, or that person can provide their whole statement and say, I'm going to be responsible for everything, or I will be partially responsible. You can show that you're able to afford the plane fare at the very minimum. So that's why we're saying it's one of the easiest to meet, even if it's like 1,000 Canadian and you're just coming to spend a weekend or a week. It all depends. If you're coming to spend time on your own, like a vacation, you're staying at a hotel, obviously you're going to be required to show more. This document, even though it allows you to enter Canada, at the end of the day, CBSA officers at the airport, they have the final say. So if you come in, let's say you have your visa, you come in and then they say, okay, well, you're coming for a vacation, you're saying you're going to stay at a hotel, and they have the authority to ask you to see proof of that. So they can say, let me see your bank account, let me see your credit card balance or whatever you plan to use. And if they don't believe you, they have the authority to turn you back at that point in time, even though you have a valid visitor's visa. It happens. So that's just something to be mindful of when you're looking at the funds. Some additional basic requirements. This is going to be my last slide, and then Ashik will take over the others. This slide it was taken directly from immigration's website. We've touched on some of it already. You must have a valid travel document. So before you apply, at least at the very minimum, you need a passport. You must be in good health. You should have no criminal record. Um, you should be able to convince the officer that you will return home at the end of your stay. So that's a huge part of the application. You should be able to convince them that you will leave Canada. You should have enough money for your trip. The amount of money you have or you will need depends on how long you plan to stay and who you plan to stay with. You may also need a medical exam or a letter of invitation from someone. This is a may, so you may or may not. Many persons are often shocked when they hear that you do not have to know someone in Canada before you apply for a visitor's visa. So let's say you're invited for a conference or there's a seminar that you're really interested in. It could be in your field, your professional career, and they're having an event in Canada, you want to participate, or even if it's like, let's say, Canada is hosting some major athletic event, soccer, basketball, whatever it is. Let's say you want to see your first NBA game and they're playing in Toronto, the Raptors and somebody, and you're super excited, you're a big fan. You can apply for a visitor's visa on just with that, right? So you can show proof that, listen, I've purchased my ticket, I've booked a hotel, it's close to the stadium. I have a budget showing my expenses, let's say Uber or whatever travel means I'm going to be using to get around, and it's a short trip, you can get your visitor's visa for, just about anything like that. Ashik will take over with the next slide. I'm just going to move forward.
Hi everyone, good night. I know Miniki touched on the proof of funds required in one of the last slides. So this slide is just really expounding on that. As she said, there's really no proof of funds required for the visitor's visa, as long as you can prove that there will be sufficient funds to cover the duration of your trip. Share the proof of funds. The Right, sorry. Generally, you find that applicants share the proof of funds burden with their hosts, where their hosts will say in their invitation letters that they will be providing the basic necessities for the duration of their trip. The applicant will say, okay, I'll cover my travel expenses, and everything else will be covered by my host. And then we're going to touch on the proof of status requirements. And this really speaks to the person who's going to host the applicant, right? So generally, you find that if you're going to use a host, you want to ensure that the person is in good status in Canada. You want to ensure that the person, if they're on a PR card, then their PR status has been renewed or they are a Canadian citizen. For this, you generally use a copy of their PR card or their certificate of citizenship or their Canadian passport. Um, you don't want to use persons who are on work permit statuses or study permits. These aren't strong. They're also temporary persons in Canada. And so you don't want to use them as your host whenever you're applying for a TRV. Maniki, you could just skip the slides, please. Right. So now we're going to touch on the common reasons for refusal. Miniki did funds situation, even no basic funds requirement. You do want to show proof that you do have enough funds. So if you say, okay, I'm gonna stay for 2 weeks, you don't want to show that I have $500 in my account, because if you're in Jamaica, then $500 won't be sufficient to look after you, right? And so you want to show enough funds for the duration of the time that you say you're going to stay for. Oftentimes, applications for the TRVs are refused because of simple mistakes on your either your forms or even in your supporting documents. Um, Right. So it always helps if there's some sort of previous travel history whenever you're going to be applying for a TRV to Canada. If you have 3 different passports with stamped pages, you always want to submit as much of your travel history as possible, as it does help to strengthen your application whenever you're applying for your TRV to Canada. You can also use an LOI, which I'm sure Miniki did touch on that one of the previous nights. It's a letter of intent. And so it essentially explains to the officer why you want to come into Canada, what you're going to do when you come into Canada, or you can use an affidavit. The affidavit can be stronger than your LOI as it's a sworn statement. And so generally it carries more weight. Um, if you're going to be hosted, as you know, you don't need a host, but if you're going to be hosted, then it's always good to be able to establish the relationship between yourself and the host. So if it's a friend, you want to use as much information as possible from the relationship to establish the relationship to the officer that's processing your application. Or if it's a family member, you want to be able to establish lineage if possible, right? You want to include all the ties that you have to your country. So if you have a lease agreement, if you have a business, you want to include a copy of your business certificate, any assets that you have in your home country. If you have children, or there's a parent or a family member that you are tasked with taking care of, you want to probably get a letter from their doctor or a letter from your child's school to say that you are playing an active role in this person's life, right? Nikki, you want to skip? So attractions in Canada. And so this is always one of my favorite things to talk about. The very first time I visited Canada, I had to go to Niagara Falls. Honestly, it's something everybody should experience at least once. There's the CN Tower, there's Canada's Wonderland, which is also a good place to visit if you do go there. For persons who are into nature, then the Banff National Park and the Rocky Mountains is always a good place you might want to visit. The Northern Lights is still something that's on my list. There's Old Quebec, there's Parliament Hill. I've been to the Toronto. In 2019 alone, Canada had a record of 22.1 million visitors, and the previous year, 21.1. That's a lot of people. And so generally the landmass of Canada covers a total of 9.985 million square kilometers, and it holds the longest international border between itself and the US. It has one of the lowest population ratio density and 2 official languages, with New Brunswick being the only legal bilingual province in Canada.
Okay, thank you for that, Ashik. So I'm just going to talk about some of the benefits of having a visitor's visa, because sometimes persons often overlook this. It's actually very good to have it because you can actually transition from a visitor to a permanent resident. So one of the things that I wanted to highlight is having a visitor's visa does give you access. It gives you access to certain things that you may not be able to access from outside of Canada. Some of the programs that you can apply to in Canada for permanent residents, you cannot apply to from outside. So for example, if you want to make a refugee claim, let's say your life is in danger in your country, not every country you can apply directly for refugee status. So you would need to come to Canada, or at least come to the Canadian border and then make that application. You can apply for humanitarian and compassionate reasons. So you want to apply for PR status because you have a pressing issue. These are things that you would not normally be able to, you can't apply from your home country. So you're required to be in Canada on Canadian soil to access and benefit from these programs. um I made a list of a couple things. I'm not going to go through all of them, but for example, another major one on my list is, let's say you want to get a job in Canada. So you've been applying online all this time. Somebody finally responds to you and they're saying, okay, yeah, sure. What can you do? We want to give you an interview. We want to sit you down in a room with other candidates. You have to demonstrate your skills, or, we're going to put you on the plans. We want to see what you can do. You do not have a visitor's visa. What are you going to say? Then you kind of look, like they're probably going to just pass you over and move on to the next person. But if you can come up, even if it's just for that, and they're willing to help out, it's very good to have it at that point. Um, if you're here watching tonight and you want to get permanent residence in Canada and you're single, this is also a good way. You can come and visit, and you might never know, you can meet someone in Canada who you might fall in love, and they want you to stay here permanently and they want to sponsor you. You can apply to extend your stay in Canada. I said earlier that you're only allowed 6 months at a time as a visitor in Canada. However, you have the option to apply to extend your stay. So when you do that, we're really applying for a visitor's record for you. So it's an application to change conditions or extend your stay in Canada. You can also extend your stay and change if you want to apply for a student or worker, depending on, obviously there are certain eligibilities that would have to be, but this is also a good thing that you can benefit from. There may be a situation in your country where you genuinely have to flee. So um, let's say your country is having like an outbreak of something and you're like super allergic to it, or somebody's really after you, like threatening your life, and you need to leave and you need to go somewhere where they cannot access. So you don't want to go to a small island because they can come after you there. Canada is known to be the go-to countries for refugees because of their intake, and their hospitality, obviously. What's happening right now in Canada in terms of the travel restrictions, the pandemic right now, as most of you may or may not know, visitors visa, it's basically on a temporary hold. What this means is that they are still accepting applications. So we always advise persons, if you're interested in coming to Canada, you should apply. Don't wait until the borders are open, because they did tell us that they're expecting to have a huge backlog. So now is the ideal time to get yourself in the queue so you're not like at the end of the line when it opens up. So we advise persons to apply now. By the time processing starts, you're not like just hurrying up to put in your application, because by then you're probably the wait time for you is gonna be extensively longer. Um, I'm gonna see what kind of questions you guys have. Yeah, so my favorite part of the evening, question and answer section. So if you have a question, now is the time to put a Lamoy. I think you're the first person with your hands up. I'm gonna give you the floor so you can go ahead and unmute your mic.
Hi, Chevelle, can you kindly mute your microphone, please, Chevelle Harris?
Hi, good night again.
Hi, Lamoy.
Yes, hi. So
Hi.
my question is, I understand all that you explained about the visitor's visa, but
Mm-hmm.
someone once told me like if you have a certain amount of funds in your account, like
Mm-hmm.
you can file for residency, like for instance, if it's over $1 million Jamaican. I'm not sure about that process. I'm not sure if you went through that process earlier this week as well.
As a visitor, you mean? Like coming to Canada
No,
and
as a permanent resident.
no, we do have an investor category. We have an investor class. So that's a
Oh,
specific type of application where essentially what it is, it's you showing you're lending the government money for a period of time. This is also a provincial program. So each province, they have their own investor requirements, right? So even in the provinces, but it's not no, it's not a million Jamaican dollars at all. It's a lot more than that for that program. I'm sorry.
something like that I was told. Something like that I was told. I just needed clarification. But I have
Yeah,
an additional question
yeah.
prior to the visitors.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
In regarding to the application, you guys do the application for us as well if we reached out to you, or is there a
Yeah,
website we
definitely.
can go and do the application ourselves?
Yeah, we do the application, visitors visa applications. It's all there on our website, or you can reach out
Oh,
directly. You can send an email. The email address is in the chat. If you want to discuss it.
okay, all right.
Thank you. Sophie, you can go ahead and unmute your mic.
Hello, good night.
Night, Sophie.
Right. My question is, I I have a valid TRV, right? I got it a few years ago. I used it twice. However, my passport was stolen with it, right?
Okay.
And But the thing is, I also got married to a Canadian citizen recently.
Congratulations.
Right. Thank you. But I was wondering if it is a case where you would advise me if I could go ahead and apply for a TRV, since I haven't
Are you
started
in,
the process of anything
are
yet
you in
due to
Canada or
Corona.
outside of Canada?
I am outside.
Okay, so when your visa got stolen, when your passport got lost or stolen, was the visa still valid?
Yes, it is valid. I still have
Okay,
years of it.
so that's something that you need to address. You can contact me after and I'll tell you how you can get it back because you're
Okay.
still entitled to it, okay?
Okay. Thanks much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Charisse, your hand was up first and then we'll take Leo. You'll go after. Go ahead and unmute Charisse.
All right. Hi, good night.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. My question is, Miniki, with my TRV, if I'm able to apply for a work permit at the border, could you expound on that for me, please?
For that, if you're gonna apply at the border, you need to be eligible first. So there is the eligibility require. There are some eligibility requirements that would have to be met before. So you can't just come in and apply at the border just like that, unless you're able to you satisfy all the conditions of the particular work permit that you want to apply for. So if let's say you have a spouse who is in Canada and studying here or working here under one of the eligible NOCs, then under normal circumstances, yes, you could apply at the border. Border services like that are temporarily suspended because of the pandemic, but usually you could go and apply. Right now, you're advised to do that kind of application online.
For entering.
Did, did you ask something else, George? I couldn't hear you.
Yes, I was asking if you mentioned that you're encouraged to do the application online. So I was asking if it's before entering the country.
No. If the person is already here studying, then you can do it online even before coming in. But if the person, depending on the type of application, obviously, that's the one that you're talking about, having the spouse here. And sorry guys, I know Charisse, so that's why I'm referring to the spouse and the type of application so specific. So Charisse, I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did, and we'll talk. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Leo, go ahead. Leo, sorry. You can go ahead and unmute.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night. How are you?
Good, good. Just a quick question here. So, let's say someone would have been interested in becoming a student in Canada, and you'd have to have your student visa. I'm wondering if it's a case where it is recommended that you would have also a visitor's visa in the event that by the end of your tenure as a student, it would assist in you returning home.
I'm not so sure how to answer your question because I don't think I wrapped my mind around it clearly. Are you asking if it's good, if it's more beneficial to have a visitor's visa when you're applying for a student visa, or if it matters? Is that your question?
No, not whilst applying, but all right. So you would have received your student visa, you'd have completed your tenure as a student, right?
Okay. Mhm.
You are now in between the space where you're completed your program, and it would have been time for you to either start working over there via the open work permit or to return home. So I'm asking like if having a visitor's visa would be a good space for you to maintain your status then whilst in the country.
Oh, okay. So very good question, actually. Excellent question. In a case like that, when you have a student visa, when normally right now, the trend for the officers, they will issue a multiple entry student visa. Before it was like a one entry kind of thing. So you get your student visa, you come to Canada, you still have to apply for a visitor's visa to be going back and forth to your home country or wherever. However, recently we've noticed that the trend is for them to give multiple entry for the student visa. So that means you can in and out as you please. If you're here and the status is gonna run out soon for your student visa, and you want to get like I guess some kind of status in between, you can apply to change your status from a student to a
But
visitor. So if that's what you mean, yes, you have that leeway. You can do that before you proceed to apply for the postgraduate work permit. So that's definitely an option.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Who's next? Let me see. Janice, Danielle, you can go ahead with your question.
Hi, good night.
Night.
Hi, I would have missed your session about acquiring work permits and stuff like that. So my question is more geared towards that. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. But Jason's gonna tell you guys afterwards because we've been getting this question a lot on how to access the recordings for those. They're actually working on editing them so that you can.
Okay.
So he'll get to that after this.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much. So I'll just wait until he's ready.
Okay, no problem. Marcia? You can go ahead and unmute. You can take the floor.
Hi, Janelle, can you mute your microphone, please?
Okay, just to add to what the first person was saying, I have an uncle who is a citizen in Canada, and
Okay.
he actually called me to say that I could get permanent residency by just having 12,000 Canadian in my bank account. So yeah, and if
Okay. Sorry, go
ahead.
ahead. You were done.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if that's actually true.
Not to my knowledge. I've never heard of a program like that. I'm not sure what he's talking about.
Because I actually researched it and I found information on it as well.
You have to know the name, the specific name of the program, but in terms of funds, having funds and applying with your funds, like for basically wealthy persons, it's the investor class, and it's not 12,000 at all. Definitely not 12,000. It's closer to like the 1 million range. It's 800,000. I think Ontario, depending on where, because they have by location, at the very minimum, it's 800,000 Canadian. That's the lower end of the spectrum.
Okay.
But 12,000, I am 100% sure there is no program where having 12,000 in your account alone as the requirement can give you access to permanent residence. Because think about it, students come to Canada, they pay school fees like 16,000 for the year on average. If it was 12,000 to attain permanent residence, everyone would do that, right? So
Okay.
I'm sure there's more to it than that.
All right.
All right, I hope I answered your question. Taisha, go ahead and take the floor.
Hi, good night. I have
Good
a
night.
question. I had applied with the Canadian Visa.org, and they said I was approved for a student visa. I would have to pay 1,700 Canadian, and I should have at least 20,000 Canadian on my bank account. Is this
All right,
correct?
Taisha, what you're saying is that you applied to, essentially it's another company. So it would be in the
Right?
similar capacity as Menage for Immigration. You said they said you're approved for a student visa.
Student visa.
I think maybe something got lost in translation there. Maybe they're saying that's what they're recommending for you. But to say that you're approved for it is
Okay.
it's not technically it's not correct in this situation. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure you're just saying you're eligible based on probably some assessment they did. However, I wouldn't say that you're
Okay.
only IRCC that can approve your application. So they cannot just make an assessment and say you're approved. So probably you just kind of translated it different.
Yes, probably I did. What about the 1,700 Canadian? Is that correct as well?
For what?
The student visa. He said in order for
I
it
know,
to
I
go
think
for.
that's probably their fees, their professional fees. So
Okay.
yeah. So if you want
Okay.
to speak with me about Menage Pro and our fees, which is
Yes,
lower,
I will.
everyone who is
I will.
listening, ours is a lot lower. So you can definitely talk to me about that after.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you touch on the assessments and how it works on our
Oh, yeah.
website?
Yes, sure, of course. Thanks for reminding me, Jason. So I just wanted to remind you guys that you can visit our website. You can complete an assessment there for free. You will get an auto response. The system does, it will evaluate you itself. It can assess you to tell you exactly what program you are eligible for right off the bat, or it can send you an email saying that we need more information. We advise you to just respond to that. It may come up right now. I'm going to be requesting with the company to help me to make some changes. Jason, I'll discuss it with you after for tech support. But I'm getting complaints that it is coming up as spam. So please check your spam folder. Whenever you get that message, please respond to it so that I can get a direct notification and I can be in contact with you about what you need to do for next step procedures. Okay, so it can be accessed at menagepro.com. You can select start assessment, put in all your information as much as possible so you can get an accurate, the most accurate result. Make sure you put in your resume. That helps. If you have a spouse, be sure to put in his or her information because you'll find that for Canada profiles like that, it will tie in. So it will give us more insight into what you are eligible for. Lisa Wiseman, I'm gonna take your question now.
Hi, good night again.
Night.
I know you said earlier that if you go on a temporary visa to Canada just to visit, now if you apply for a job there and they have like a job fair and you decide you just want to go to the fair, is it right? Is it that you have to have a work permit at that point, or they can hire you just like that from there?
The company would have to assist you with obtaining the work permit. So some companies, as we discussed, I think last night we did work permits. Some companies will be flexible to help out. Some not so much. The most important thing is to be very transparent right off the bat. So you have to let them know, this is my immigration status and I would need some help with getting the work permit. So
Okay. And I have one more thing again. The other one I wanted to ask, how I applied to you through the Menage Pro and I got the email from you, the confirmation. However, I wasn't able to move forward. It just blank out. So I don't know what next to do. If to reapply again because I have my resumes ready.
So you did it get submitted or you don't know?
Yeah, when I submitted, I got this email as spam, as I told you yesterday, and got a spam. Yeah, so I wasn't sure what to do after.
Yeah, make sure you respond. As I'm saying, make sure you respond. I the setting, it's a feature. It must be something in our setting that I'm gonna have to look through. So it doesn't go to your spam folder. But the most important thing is to respond. If you don't respond, then we don't know that you have an interest or that you even got it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lisa, we did. I did record your email from yesterday, so we'll be checking in our back end on that also.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Taisha, you can go ahead and unmute. You can ask your question now.
I guess my hand was still up. Sorry.
Okay, Shayana. Sorry. Shayana, you can go ahead and unmute.
Hi, good evening.
Shayana, are you there? No? Okay, Shamar, you can go ahead while Shayana.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Shayana, we're having a little bit of a hard time trying to hear you.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me better?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. I think you said previously, if I'm not correct, please correct me, that obtaining a visiting visa, a temporary visiting visa, you'll be in better standings in applying for a permanent residency. Was that correct?
I did say that if you have one and you come to Canada, you would be able to access certain programs from inside Canada that's not accessible to persons outside the country.
Okay, thank you for confirming that.
You're welcome. Shamar, you can go ahead.
Good night. I sent an email. I did the questionnaires, and I got an email saying that source some options, but I haven't gotten a reply
Shamar,
yesterday.
I'm having a hard time.
You might
Hello?
be using a translator. Shamar, can you text your question
Yeah,
to us?
yeah, please. You can just type it in. I'll go to the chat right now and I'll answer it.
And we can answer your question right away? Shamar?
Yes.
Thank you.
Taisha, do you have a question again, or do you want me to lower your hand?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
I do. Okay. Can a sister sponsor another sister? This sister lives in Canada. She has permanent residency. Can she sponsor her sister?
Good question, but no, Canada does not have sibling sponsorship, unlike the US and some other countries. We don't have that option right now. Maybe in the
Okay.
future, keep your fingers crossed, but not right now.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Solomon, go ahead with your question.
Hope you can hear me.
I can hear you.
I wanted to make an inquiry about investment in agriculture because I've had this information for quite some time,
Okay.
and I would really like to know how to go about it.
Okay. What's your question exactly?
About the agricultural investment sponsor. Is it sponsorship by the government?
You mean the program for agricultural workers?
Yes.
Okay. What's your question about it? Our company, I'm not even sure if we've done much of that. I wouldn't be the
Okay.
best person to ask a question like that. So if you have a specific question, I'm going to recommend you send me an email. I'm going to have to direct to one of my colleagues that handles those ones primarily.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So if it's for you and you're the agriculture worker or someone you know, just send me the question, exactly what you want to know, and then I will
Okay.
advise you. I'll take it from there with you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Last one, and then I'll jump right into the chat and see if there's anything over there that I can answer. Abigail, okay, no, sorry. C, just C, you can go ahead and unmute.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Yes, you just mentioned that there were some programs that you might be able to access on a TRV while in Canada. That's probably harder to access outside. I'm not sure if you had discussed these before, but would you be able to shine some more light on that, please? Thank you.
Yeah, the ones, there are probably several, but the two that jump out at me, like that I wanted to mention, it's the refugee one. That one you can access from outside, and the humanitarian. So the humanitarian one, I find a lot of visitors go for that because they do meet all the requirements. They are in dire need of, they want to live in Canada because they have a certain situation that the government will kind of, pity or take real sympathy on. So it really depends on the person's profile, essentially. So if you, let's say you are in Canada and you want to apply to one of these programs, there are others. We will have to probably check out your profile and see what you can be eligible for. But those are the two that do jump out because they're the ones that persons access primarily as visitors in Canada.
Okay. Alrighty. Or I could probably shoot you an email and you could tell me the others.
Yeah, no problem. That's fine.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Guys, just disclaimer.
Shamar,
Sorry, go ahead.
Shamar had responded in the chat room. He said he completed the online assessment and got an automatic response saying that they would like to discuss with him further. He responded to say he's interested but hasn't gotten a response.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Just a disclaimer, just because of our seminar this week, my email that I try to attend to these things personally, and it has been a little bit backed up because I still attend work in the daytime and then I have this at night. So please allow a little bit of a leeway, probably for the weekend into Monday, Tuesday, for me to clear my inbox and get to everyone. I will put up a post to tell you when I am done responding to everything. So if, let's say, I put that post by Tuesday, if you did not get a response and you did send something and you probably got lost somewhere in there, you'll just respond to me there. But I will be clearing my inbox, I promise you, by Tuesday, guys. So please just give me a little bit of time. We are a little bit busy over here this week, obviously, with the webinars. So Shamar, just give me some time, my dear. I did make a note of your name, so I will make sure I jump out at you directly. Jason, you want to go ahead and tell them before we wrap up? Let everyone know. I'm gonna look in the chat quickly.
Definitely. We have been working with Zoom to get all of the replays, the webinar replays over the last 3 sessions, plus today would make 4. I did finally receive Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from Zoom. However, it does require a little bit of editing on my side. So I will have them up and out closer to the weekend, possibly tomorrow, before the first session will be ready to deploy. But everybody that has attended and that has requested a copy of the replay will definitely receive a copy of the webinars they requested and or attended.
All right, thank you so much, Jason. So Nikita actually raised a good point in the chat. She said the program that these persons are probably referring to for the funds that they said you have to have, it's probably the Express Entry program. And if that's the case, and it is that you're talking about, there is more to it. We did Express Entry on the first night. So there are more requirements outside of the funds. The funds component, it's only one of the requirements and not the major one, definitely not the major one. However, it's important to have that amount of money. So if you heard that you need to have X amount and it's within that range, at least 13,000 there, that's probably, Nikita, you're right. It's probably that program you're talking about, but that's only one of about 5 basic requirements. So thank you for pointing that out. Thank you for catching that, Nikita. Taisha is asking, you're saying that you were unable to submit the assessment. It was not taking Gmail. It takes Gmail. I'm not sure why. I would recommend that you try from a different browser or refresh if it didn't get submitted. If it still does not work, please send me an email directly. My email address is at the beginning, at the top of the chat, and let me know. And then I will have to manually assess you. I'll just need your resume.
And also try not to refresh your browser when you're doing the assessment, and just to go through it and then submit it.
And also, Shayana, you're asking if there's a program that accepts families, accepts families and sponsors. Well, most of the programs you can do it as a family. So I'm not sure if that's what you mean. Family of 3 to become a permanent resident. Definitely, I would recommend, Shayana, that you fill out the assessment. But yes, most programs, families are just fine. How will good question from Galaxy A50. How will having no travel history affect your visa application? I stated earlier that the federal court did state that no travel history is a neutral factor, so it should not negatively affect your application. That's fine. We just address it straight. In our practice, what we do at MNASHPRO, we address something like that head on. So we're very transparent about why you have no travel history, why you decide you want to travel now, and so on and so forth. MNASHPROinfo.com, that is my direct contact, yes. I think that is it for tonight. We are wrapping up with very good timing. I just want to thank everybody for coming out. You guys have been so good. You've been consistently, a lot of you have been consistently coming out. And I wish you guys all the best on your journey to becoming permanent residents and Canadian citizens. I hope to hear from you soon. Again, visit our website and take advantage of that free assessment. And we will take it from there. So good night, everyone. Have a safe and lovely evening.